welcome to everybody. I'm not necessarily seeing you all or looking at you all at the same time, but I think I appreciate your attendance and participation. My name is Kiele Bandera, and I am the president of the Kona Coffee Farmers Association Board of Directors. And I wanted to, like I already did, welcome you all to joining us, but also, put out my appreciation that there's been an effort to put together what I think is a relatively needed kind of event. I think in this day and age, we're doing it virtually, which I think is still fine in terms of access to information on a topic, bookkeeping, which I think applies to most all of us at some level or another. And I think that, we have to thank our board member, Chet Gardner, for being willing to facilitate making this happen, because I think I really appreciate his time and energy and capacity to do a couple of things which we haven't done historically, and one of which is to record it. So I want to let you all know that it is being recorded so that people can access it at a later time, because I think that historically has been one of the difficulties that our membership has pointed out, is if they miss an event, then repeating it's good, but I think being able to access it recording, I think is very helpful. So thank you to Chet. And I think that one of our new board members, Franz Weber, has offered to step up and help us with some educational efforts. And I really appreciate his time and energy and want to thank him as well for making this happen, because it was his desire, well, I don't know, inclination, but also his energy that have put it together. So thank you, Franz, for putting it to the wheel, so to speak, and making it happen. I think it's helpful and important for whether or not, honestly, you're even a coffee farmer, but for farmers to get a perspective that's functional and helpful on this subject area. And our guest, I won't really be able to introduce because we don't know each other, but Kiele Carpio of WaiwaiFinancials LLC is going to be presenting. I don't know if Franz will give her a better introduction than myself, but I wanted to thank her for being present and thank her for being willing to participate, because I think it's other parts of the community that we all need to bring together as farmers and work together in terms of the different components that we need. So I just wanted to spend a few minutes thanking you and welcoming you to this. I'm going to turn it over to Franz, but I appreciate, again, your participation and attendance. So aloha.
Oh, thank you, Kiele. And you mentioned already everything. I don't want to repeat anything. The Education Committee, John is also on the call. Thank you. We decided to come up with some workshops. And this is one of them. And we are really happy to be able to get somebody to talk a little bit about bookkeeping and accounting for farmers, specifically how it is helpful, how it can save money and time and ease the frustration, and why it's really helpful. And thank you so much, Kiele or Kylie?
Kiele.
Kiele, to be here and provide us with that information. Thank you for making yourself available on relatively short notice. If you have any comments or questions, you can put them into chat. We are trying to watch it throughout the presentation, and then we're going to read them off at the end as we have time, so the questions can be answered. If not here, then at a later point. And everything will be recorded, so you can also see it online. And her business card will also be, information will be on the KCFA website. So if you have any additional questions and want to contact her, that is also an option. Without any further ado, please take over, and thank you again for being here.
No, thank you guys. I just want to say hello to everyone. Thank you for having me. I'm super excited about this, and I'm really also excited to be sharing all of this information with you guys. So like Franz said, we're going to be discussing the importance of having a bookkeeper, which can really save you a lot of time and money. I know some business owners may think that it's an added expense, or it may not be in their budget, or they just don't know why they should have one. So I'm here to answer those questions and give you guys a little bit of insight on that. So I first want to define what a bookkeeper is. A bookkeeper is someone who records your company's expenses, income, transactions. They'll reconcile your company's financial accounts, bank accounts, and they also help to prepare financial statements and reports, whether that be weekly, monthly, at the end of the year. They also work very closely with your tax CPA, and they can also be considered an accountant. Which this leads me to my next point, a bookkeeper versus an accountant versus a CPA. A lot of people think that these are all interchangeable, they're all the same thing, but they're not. The work kind of overlaps and they may help each other out, but they are a little different. So a bookkeeper, like we just defined, is someone that does all the data entry. Your accountant is actually the person who will take that data and they'll interpret the numbers. They'll give you consultation and analysis, tell you if you are operating at a profit or a loss, where you're doing good, where you could do better. So not all accountants are CPAs. You can be a bookkeeper and an accountant, but being an accountant doesn't make you a CPA, if that makes any sense. But a CPA is a certified public accountant, and in order to be a CPA, you need to go through extensive schooling, and you also need to take an exam. Really, the only thing that only a CPA can do is prepare and file your reviewed financial statements with the SEC, which is the Securities Exchange and Commission. And they are the only ones that can represent clients in front of the IRS if you were ever to get audited. So these are some of the bookkeeping tasks. This is what you can expect your bookkeeper to do daily, weekly, monthly. It's also things that a bookkeeper may do quarterly, semi-annually, as well as at the end of the year. But on a daily basis, your bookkeeper will record your expenses, invoice your customers, record your daily sales, input new bills. They'll also record any payments that have been received, organize and file your paperwork, and also scan in important documents and receipts. With the new day and age and all of the software and cloud-based software, it's so great because you don't ever have to keep paper files. You can scan them in and they'll never the paper won't start to yellow, it won't tear, won't get lost in a fire or a storm. It's a great thing about today's technology. But on a weekly basis, your bookkeeper may also deposit checks, pay any bills. They'll review your accounts receivables and your payables, and also maybe run payroll. And then on a monthly basis, they'll balance your books, reconcile any bank accounts, credit cards, make adjusting entries, run your reports, and review all of those reports with you. And then also compare the current month to last month so you can assess where you're doing good and where you need to improve. And then also file state taxes. State taxes are either done on monthly, quarterly, or semi-annually, but I'm assuming all of you file your state taxes monthly. So we're going to get into the points of why you should have a bookkeeper and why it's important. And I thought it would be best to take you guys through a scenario. So we're going to go through the life of Tim, who is a coffee farm owner. He doesn't have a bookkeeper, so he manages everything on his own, processes all of his own coffee, sells them to be resold in retail stores. He has 50 employees, so he processes payroll on his own. And he also has heavy equipment. He purchases items on accounts, and he has customers who owe him money. So the first point, which is it's a very obvious one, is it saves you a lot of time and money. If we look at Tim, who is always busy trying to run a successful business and make time for his friends and his family, and if he wants to spend more time fishing, because he loves fishing, but he finds that he spends most of his time doing his books and sorting through receipts. Things that become daily tasks are now monthly. Everything's backed up, receipts pile up. He can't remember where that $2,000 bill is, and he's just super stressed out. because he's not in it all the time, his accounts aren't balancing, and now he has to spend even more time going back to fix things. It's added stress and less time doing what he enjoys or what he wants to do or what he should be focusing on, which is running his business. So saving yourself time and money, as we all know, time is money, so very important. But the second reason is your bookkeeper will categorize your expenses correctly. Example, Tim purchases snacks and drinks for his workers. He spends money on fuel to run his equipment. He buys paper and pens for the office, shipping and packing supplies, all of that, which are all write-offs, which are, you can get at the end of the year, tax deductions, which means you will owe the IRS less money at the end of the year. This all depends on your industry, but for coffee farmers, office supplies, shipping supplies and costs, packaging, fuel, safety equipment, even computers, software, all of that stuff all count as deductions at the end of the year when you file your taxes. And having a bookkeeper who knows how to categorize these expenses and who will categorize them correctly will help you receive the max tax deductions. Your bookkeeper will also know how to write off large equipment and vehicles. I'm pretty sure some of you own some pretty heavy machinery equipment, maybe. I'm just assuming that, but if you do, how you deduct those or write them off, it's a little different from writing off $50 worth of office supplies. And it'll either fall under Section 179, which basically means you are eligible to deduct it all at once, or you have to depreciate it, which means you deduct it in small increments over the course of roughly 5 years. And your bookkeeper knows how to do all of those things. So making sure that your expenses are being categorized correctly can really save you money at the end of the year and get you those tax deductions. Are we looking on the no? Okay, no questions so far. It's good. Your bookkeeper will also keep track of your accounts payable. So your accounts payable are people that you owe money. If you look at Tim orders supplies on account from Hawaii Gardening Supplies. They end up sending him a statement saying he owes them $300 for invoice 2030. Tim is so busy that he totally spaces and he just pays them without realizing that he's already paid them. Now he's just double paid them and he's out $600. If you were keeping track of your accounts payable and you had a bookkeeper to stay on top of those, they could easily refer back to check stubs and the days the checks are cut. Example, if I were doing the books for Tim, I would have told Hawaii Gardening Supply, actually, the check, that invoice was paid on whatever date, check 5/6/23 or whatever it may be. So you avoid double paying. It happens a lot, actually. I've seen it happen a lot. You can't, because sometimes those businesses that you're dealing with, they don't really have their books straight either. So having yours straight will help a lot. And then also sometimes these vendors apply the payments wrong. But staying on top of this, make sure that you're paying your bills on time. You'll avoid late penalty fees. Sometimes if you don't pay it on time, they'll lock your account. You can't order anything. And it also creates a bad relationship with the people that you're buying supplies from. So it's super important to just stay on top of that. Skip the slide. So next reason it's important to have a bookkeeper is so they can keep track of your accounts receivable. This is money coming into your business. So Kona Souvenirs buys coffee from Tim to sell in their stores. Tim sends them an invoice that's due in 30 days, but again, things get busy and it's over a month later, Tim realizes that Kona Souvenirs still owes him money. Being on top of this, you always know who owes you money. And the thing is that customers know what vendors that they can pay late and what vendors they have to pay on time. So having a bookkeeper, staying on top of that, you can really enforce getting paid on time, because it's important to have that cash flow injection to your business. Your accounts receivable is an asset. It's money. It shows how much money that you have and money that's at your disposal whenever you need it. So very, very important, again, to stay on top of that. So the next reason, which is kind of really sums it all up, is that it keeps your account up to date. If we look at Tim, he doesn't stay on top of his daily tasks. His accounts aren't up to date. His bank account has a different balance than his books, and his reports aren't accurate. So because he's not doing his accounting every day, he's not getting all of the data in. So when he runs reports, his reports aren't accurate. He doesn't have a clear picture of what his business is operating at. And it's so important, because your finances are the backbone of your business. If you don't know your numbers, you don't know your business. And your reports will tell you those numbers. They'll tell you if you have a profit or a loss. They'll tell you, what's a money spender, where you're saving money, what products are doing really good, what products maybe you need to improve or pull off the shelf, things like that. And you get those reports by keeping good books. So again, this kind of like sums everything up. When you are doing the correct data entry, when you're staying on top of your bills, staying on top of the people that owe you money, this all will add up to having accurate reports and a very clear picture of your business's finances. So this is something that Franz mentioned to me. A lot of you may have experienced the toll of the COVID pandemic, but there was a lot of state and government funding that went out. Example, Tim, who was impacted by the 2020 coronavirus pandemic, he wants to apply for the PPP loan, but in order to receive funding, he needs to show accurate financial reports. This is super important, especially now that Biden has passed the second stimulus package. I've also listed out how some of that money is being allotted back into small businesses. So 28.6 billion is going back to the Restaurant Relief Fund, 15 billion in economic injury disaster loan. That economic injury disaster loan is if your business is really struggling to make ends meet. They've also expanded access and added $7.5 billion to the PPP loan, and $350 billion is being allocated to state and local governments. Hopefully our state actually allocates some of that money to small businesses instead of Honolulu PD's ATVs, but that's another point. But very important to keep good books for that reason, especially with everything that's going on in the world. I also wanted to throw this in there, audit purposes, another reason why it's so important to have a bookkeeper. Tim applied and received the PPP loan, but he wants to apply for forgiveness. And in order to qualify for forgiveness, the SBA is going to audit Tim. This is just an example, but if you are keeping good books and you have a bookkeeper who is keeping those things in line, it'll make the audit go way smoother. And it's not just getting audited by the IRS. Sometimes if you apply for a bank loan, the bank may want to audit you. If you have investors, they may want to do an audit to make sure that you are giving them correct reports before they invest a ton of money into your business. And it's also for internal audits. If you want to do an audit in your own, within your own business and make sure that everything's good. I also wanted to mention how long records should be kept, because I don't think a lot of people know this. Maybe you guys do, but tax records and documents should be kept for at least 3 years. If you didn't report your taxes or if you misreported your income, they need to be kept for 7. And then any employee records and documents should be kept for 4 years. And then this is my last and final reason. I can go on many more, but so important to have a bookkeeper for tax season ease at the end of the year. Tim didn't keep up with his records, so at the end of the year, he was scrambling and playing catch up in order to file his taxes. His records weren't as accurate, and he realized he wasn't getting his max deductions. So having a bookkeeper, or an accountant year round rather than just at the end of the year will save you so much time, money, and stress. You're not going to have to play catch up and scramble to get all of these documents. And it also, your tax CPA expects things to be prepped and clean at the end of the year. I know a lot of people who say they just throw all their receipts and paperwork into a manila folder and hand it off to their tax CPA. You're expecting your CPA to consolidate a year's worth of information in 1 to 2 weeks. Chances are you're doing that, and the 20 other people that your tax accountant is filing taxes for is doing the same thing. So you save yourself and your CPA a lot of stress, and you ensure that you're getting your max deductions, and you're not missing out on any of those. So to sum it all up, why should Tim even have a bookkeeper? Well, things won't get backed up. His expenses will be categorized correctly so that he can get his max deductions. Bills will be paid on time. Tim gets paid on time. He can assess where his business is at any given moment. He can see if he's at a profit, at a loss. It'll show the financial health of his business, and he can focus on running his business and spending weekends with his family, going fishing, doing what he loves to do. And now that leaves you all with the question, well, what can I do? First, I would say hire a bookkeeper or an accountant. I know being a business owner, you always want to touch everything. You want to be everything. But there comes a point where you have to kind of delegate your task and know what you're good at, and also know when you need to hand something off to someone because you can't do it anymore. So if you can, hire a bookkeeper or an accountant. I am taking clients at Waiwai, and I also, I know that some people are like, well, it's not in my budget. I'm very flexible. I understand the times that we are in, and I really try to work with people to create a package and offer services specifically for their business, because every business is different. But if you can't, or if you rather do it yourself, I would say to set yourself up in QuickBooks Online. I'm a big fan of QuickBooks. I love QuickBooks. I'm an even bigger fan of QuickBooks Online rather than desktop. The reason being is because QuickBooks Online, all the information is automated. It makes bookkeeping really easy. It's highly intuitive, very easy to navigate. And it's also a cloud-based software. So that means everything is automatically backed up. You don't have to worry if your computer breaks or the files are gone or if your server gets fried. Everything is backed up in the cloud and your information is there indefinitely. I'd also say start by keeping all of your receipts and your bills, which are filed away by month. If you have the time, go ahead and scan them in onto your computer or to a cloud software, again, just to keep your documents safe and secure in the event that anything were to happen. It's very easy for paper files to get damaged. Also, print and save all of your bank and credit card statements, and try your best to touch your books daily. If not daily, then weekly. It really helps to make sure that things don't get backed up and you're staying on top of it. And that was the end of the presentation, and I would love to take any questions.
Thank you so much, Kiele. That was very informative and very detailed, and a lot of different topics you spoke about. So thank you very much. I mean, it takes a while to understand everything and to get a good picture or to realize where shortcomings are. Yeah. So one question that came up here was, if I only file excise form G45 once per year in January, do I also need to file the summary report from G49?
Yes, so you may want to check up on that because your G45, usually you file either monthly, quarterly, or semi-annually. Um, but yes, you do file your G45 and then your G49 at the end of every year.
Kiele, maybe would you say that bookkeeping for a farmer or coffee farmer is different than any other business? Is there anything specific that may be overlooked and is really crucial for them?
I think that as far as bookkeeping goes, there are things that are across the board the same, pretty much the same for all industries. I think it just depends on how your business operates. You guys give me kind of like an example. I don't know if anyone wants to throw out kind of how they operate things, if they sell wholesale, if they have, or if you guys send all your coffee to be processed somewhere else, or.
I have a question,
Yeah,
and that is, I use QuickBooks,
yes.
and my tax is automatically applied in QuickBooks.
Okay.
My accountant said, do not use that because it is not based on GET. It's based on most of the mainland tax structure, in which case, let's say I sell something for $100 and I collect the tax on it. The tax is in addition to the $100. Let's say $100 is income. 5%, let's say, goes in, and 5% tax. So then $5 goes into tax. He said in Hawaii, though, you pay tax on the $105 instead of the $100. So he said it's don't use the tax information where they have automatically. You can set up the tax structure on that.
Yes, that is true. Hawaii is very weird. We're the only state that has that general excise tax. So our tax structure is a little different from what goes on in the mainland. But yes, I would agree with him on that one, to not use QuickBooks.
How do you bypass that? How do you work around that?
At a previous firm that I worked at, we had our own internal Excel sheet that we would use in order to calculate that, to figure out how much we actually are supposed to be paying on state tax, rather than using QuickBooks little calculation that they do.
Yeah. Okay. Thank you.
You're welcome.
Kiele, is there anything that people should be considering when they do wholesale and retail, or they may sell coffee outside of the state, export it? Is there anything that they need to do differently in bookkeeping?
That's a good point. Now, if you're shipping and selling to other states out of country, it's very important to know and keep track of those numbers, because you may be subject to paying taxes in another state, or paying the foreign commissions. So it's very important to know those numbers, because you want to make sure that you are paying, if you are subject to those taxes in somewhere other than Hawaii, that you are correctly paying those. And then as for the wholesale and retail goes, I think it depends. If you're doing wholesale and retail in state, then it's fairly easy. Again, if you're doing wholesale or retail out of state, you want to make sure you're keeping track of that. But knowing your numbers will also let you know what you should be pricing those at. If you need to maybe increase your cost, or if you could, possibly decrease your cost, and you're doing exceptionally well. So having good records and knowing those numbers will help you determine if you're pricing your product at what it's worth.
If there are no more questions, then I don't really want to keep anybody any longer. everybody has a busy schedule. Again, thank you so much for taking the time and the preparation and preparing the PowerPoint presentation, all that. So that was quite some effort. I really appreciate it. And
Yeah, thank you so much for having me.
it was very educational to see a different point of view, and everybody has a chance, all the members have a chance to look at it again. It's recorded, and your contact information will also be provided. So if anybody wants to, they can contact Kiele and see how her services may help your business.
Awesome. Thank you so much. I hope you
Thank
guys all
you.
have an awesome day.
Yeah,
Thank you.
thank you so much. Okay, I guess that's it for today.
Bye.
Back to work. Well, thank you. Bye-bye.